Good day, televiewers, and welcome to your program, The Lamb, on your TV. Call it WAKA Africa TV. WAKA Africa TV is a TV that has come to stay. The Lamb is the program which talks about current issues, and most especially, we look at views and, of course, the different opinions of stakeholders. At this timing point, we will be introducing to you those we have on the set as panelists. I turn to my right, and I'll be saying a special good day to Josephine Nsono. She is an activist, and of course, she is a social worker. Nice having you on set, madam.
My pleasure.
And to my left, we have a gentleman. He is Mbaku Jude. He is a media personality, and of course, he is a social critic. Nice having you on board, sir.
The pleasure is mine.
Extreme right, we have Bakah Derick. He is a seasoned journalist, although he will always want to keep a very low profile. I'm happy having you on set, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you are going to have some very beautiful 30 minutes in our company as we get the very first edition of this program. Call it The Lamb on your TV, WAKA Africa TV. Now, getting straight to the topic of discussion for today, we'll be looking at campaigns, elections, and the legitimacy of a president. The context certainly is that of Cameroon. We just had elections in Cameroon. And I'd like to start with you, Mbaku Jude. What is your take on the campaigns that you witnessed of recent?
Thank you very much again. Well, Cameroon is a country which we all have been in, and for a while now, we've been wondering what is happening to Cameroon as a whole. You know, the campaigns, the last election, like every other election we've had in Cameroon, we've seen nothing too different. It's been the same setup, the same scenario, the same music, the same dances, and I think that if we're to have anything to write home with, we would have been talking about what makes this one different. But actually, from where I stand, I see nothing really different, except for the context under which the elections for this year took place, the political, socio-economic, political context under which the elections this year took place. So, from my appraiser, the campaigns were not up to standard, especially for those of us who are of this part of this other part of the country. I'm talking about those of the Anglophone part of the country. They didn't enjoy what an election and the universal suffrage comes with as far as election and choosing a country's leader is concerned.
Thank you so very much. Anglophones, like you put it, they do not enjoy what usually obtains before. I now turn to my right to meet Nsono Josephine. Probably looking at or going by your age, you certainly must have witnessed campaigns in 2004, in 2011, and of recent 2008. What difference did you witness?
Just like our colleague here has mentioned, the difference I've observed over time, and particularly during this campaign session, has been the fact that living the realities of the Northwest and the Southwest regions, or the Anglophone Cameroon in particular, we've observed the fact that the ambience or the zeal and the passion that comes along with electing a statesman has not been observed, has not been experienced within the English-speaking part of the country. And talking about the fact that campaigns actually did not hold in the two regions, it's really what makes that difference.
Campaigns did not hold in the
we didn't see people campaign, and we didn't enjoy. We actually did not receive candidates come to the Northwest and in particular.
Maybe it's because you don't belong to the ruling CPDM party, because we saw pictures of them having campaigns in the Northwest region.
Well, I didn't observe, I didn't experience it. That's why I would say it didn't actually hold.
Thank you so very much, Josephine. Now I'll be turning to the extreme right to meet Bakah Derick. Derick, you certainly are a media personality, and you've covered several campaigns in the region and out of the region. I would like to get you measure up with this team as of the past campaign period in the Northwest region and Cameroon as a whole.
Well, for the Northwest, I think Jude and Joseph said almost everything about the timid nature of the campaigns. But allow me to say, being in the media is the very first time I'm seeing such a massive media campaign in this country. We've not had this before, maybe because of the lack of the media outlets at the time. But during this last campaign, we had a situation where media houses dedicated not fewer than 8 hours every day for campaigns. I mean a situation where you had about 4 programs per day that are repeated in the night. So out of 24 hours, you had about 8 of those hours dedicated to political campaigns. I mean, to me, that has not happened before. And the number of media organs that you had in the country also multiplied this time, and all of them were fully engaged in the political process. We also had the social media, which seemingly was a trick for most of the candidates. And many of them used it so well. I can say so well, because we have not had that before, even if the use of it was not to the best because of internet penetration in Cameroon. You agree with me that they made an effort to use that, not just sharing things on popular social media sites like Facebook and WhatsApp, but many of them made an effort to create even their own applications to be able to reach out to people. To me, this is a media evolution which has added more steam to campaigns in Cameroon overall.
Now, will you say that because the media had this team, that explains why militants could not feel the presence of those who were campaigning on the field?
I can understand that you're coming right close to where we are. Yes, some people, you know that when something comes new, people wear it without reflections, because I have the feeling that lots of our people didn't reflect. Even the candidates involved didn't reflect on the use of the available tools to woo people to accept their ideology. Take, for example, a candidate that prefers to use a week or 2 for pre-campaign periods to be chasing 18,000 voters in the diaspora, instead of going to a region that has about 500,000 voters. It doesn't make sense. So it's just the excitement of moving around, talking on Facebook, but was it actually focused? This is the point. You realize that many of them didn't actually focus. They didn't target, and so they missed out on the basics, missed out on the people. And then for those who even dare to organize a few meetings, they are all public meetings. You go to a region with more than 34 subdivisions, you do a rally in Bamenda 2, for example, and you say that you did campaigns in that region. It's funny. And I can quickly say that that also puts to question the legitimacy of most of the campaigns that we had in our country. They were just, to me, a formality, not necessarily to get political support.
Thank you so very much, Derick. You are tuned to WAKA Africa TV, and we are streaming live from Bamenda, Northwest Region, Cameroon. Now, I'll be turning back to you, Mbaku Jude. Don't you think that the timid registration of voters also explains why the campaign managers who managed to come to the region had to attend just to the few?
Well, I'll not say the registrations per se was timid. Yeah. Before 2016, especially, we had a good number. Elekam announced a good number of registration, and if you look at Elekam's figures within that period for registration, it was very impressive, especially in the northwest and the southwest region, where we have close to 8 million people. You understand? So the registration was not timid. Where we had the problem was actually the vote casting process, where people boycotted their own civic right of choosing the president for obvious reasons. The figures, if you look at the general figures from Elekam, they were good to go at least. Because if you go back to the last election in 2011, we had less than 3 million people casting their votes. Now, we are in the next election that has about 6.6 million, 7 million people who are registered, and yet you have even lesser people who went to the poll. Then that explains to you that there was a problem somewhere unsolved. You know, the right to vote, universal suffrage, is it's a civic responsibility which every Cameroonian would have been educated and it's not it's not, you are not supposed to be forced to go to the polls. So rather, I think that the problem was in educating and doing the right thing by those who matter, those who are our leaders. So they did not do the right thing for the people to feel so patriotic in going to the polls.
Now, before we move away from campaigns, let me turn to Josephine. You explained, you also bear witness that the region, the Northwest region, had curfew, and could this have been one of the major difficulties faced by militants who did not come out, or who also did not see their campaign managers coming to vote, or even the contesting parties?
Well, I wouldn't think as much as it is that the curfew had something to do with militants and civilians, put it that way, to come out and meet the campaign managers or the leaders themselves.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to think about is security. Now, there is the curfew, but the curfew is not within the day. Within the day, people are free to go about their activities. Now, the question is, why did we not see our leaders come out and talk to the civilians and talk to the populace so they can actually understand their manifestos or their plans or whatever they have in stock?
Are we saying that they neglected the masses?
I want to see it from a perspective. I don't know whether it's negligence or it's insecurity issues. Why would a candidate, for instance, who hails from the region, not come to the region to convince people to say, okay, this is what I think, and this is what we are asking for?
Could it also be because you are seen as the minority?
I wouldn't think that it's an issue of a minority. Now, charity begins at home. You cannot say you want to govern from above, and then even the immediate persons that come from where you're living or from where you hail do not understand what you want to sell to the outside world.
Yes.
So I think that in as much as we had leaders who even hailed from the region, we expected them to come to the region and say, okay, this is what we think about our states. We are in a crisis situation and we have experienced XYZ issues, and this is what we think, that together, if we think alongside, this is what we want to see happen in the next mandate of a leader of the state. Yet we didn't have people come to the region to make us see reasons why, as the populace, we should support them in their stance.
Thank you. Bakah, going by official statistics from Elections Cameroon, the figures from the Northwest region was not that encouraging. Could that be the reason why some parties did not see the need to waste maybe their small resources? Because I got them first of all complaining that what came from the territorial administration was not enough for their campaigns, maybe because of the insignificant number of voters or those who registered from the region. Could that be the reason why they left and went to other areas?
No, definitely no. If I look at the amount of resources they put in running in the diaspora, you agree with me that that cannot be the reason. We are living very tough, we are living in a very challenging security moment, and you agree with me that many of them did not have sufficient justification. First of all, as in terms of ideas to justify why they should run a campaign at a time people are living almost in pain. There has been a mass exodus from here. This is a fact. Lots of people have moved out. Lots of people have been displaced internally and externally. And I think that coming to run an election campaign in an area that has been lots of, I don't know, depends on which side you stand, brainwashing or education, you know, you cannot come to do a campaign in such an area where people have different thoughts about that particular electoral process. First of all, the people have already acknowledged abandonment by the leadership of the particular country, of the country at the time, because of what they are going through. The current leadership in the country has not shown interest in the well-being of these people. And For you to identify with that kind of leadership, wanting to take over such a position, it could likely also mean that you are saying that you guys don't matter. So many of them were quite conscious of this, and they did not see it necessary to come to do a campaign here. But then, as people who want to lead a country, I think it would have been normal to come and let the worst happen to you. If you truly love the job to lead, you can die for leadership.
The CPDM was there, so the other parties did not have that in mind.
Well, I mean, they also use that to their advantage. I listened to the Secretary General of the party, that's Curator. He actually was very clear when he said that other political parties who seemingly had fanned the flame of the ongoing crisis, they have abandoned the people in their suffering. But the question is where they found themselves in thick layers of security. Because many of us covered the event, you pass several layers of security before you could access the event ground. Which ordinary person could dare? I was going there because I know I have some accreditation. I have some international eyes watching me. Ordinary people who do not have would not want to come to that kind of a place because they don't feel safe.
The governor of the Northwest region said all political parties had right to the same thing.
No, lots of things have been said during this period, and implementation is a major challenge, bro. We are covering this thing on the ground, and I can tell you that lots of things have been said and very little connected to that has been implemented. So we're talking here about life, and people take issues of life very seriously. Yeah. You know, if I were to go back to places where we've been doing analysis on day to day, when there is a release online that talks about some funny meeting somewhere, nobody shares to the other person. But when it's a release that has to do with threat on life, people share it even by word of mouth. Yeah. This will tell you that here people value a lot of life, and people won't take the risk to put their life on the line in wanting to take part in some campaign or in some election whose headway you do not even have an idea about.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree with him any less.
Okay. That notwithstanding, a good number of the political parties, they adopted a mouth-to-ear campaign, and it certainly, I'm sure it helped them one way or to have the votes that they have. If you are just joining us, you are tuned to WAKA Africa TV, and we are broadcasting here live from the city of Bamenda, Northwest Region, Cameroon. The LAM is the program you're tuned to, and the LAM is that program that brightens our minds, ideas, and directs our personal ideologies to global thought. Now, as a journalist, you are a reporter, and certainly you are an observer. What observations do you make or had you for the elections?
Let me begin by saying, in the very first instance, as a patriotic Cameroonian, the elections would not have been organized in the very first place. Okay. For the elections to have been organized in Cameroon at this moment, for me, it's bad faith. We are talking about a country. If you go back to the historical background of Cameroon, you realize that the country it's made of two people. I don't want to go into the polemics of it. Yeah. But for one person of these two people to have taken the decision to organize and vote, because I'm saying this in the context that Northwest and Southwest were not given the right to partake in these elections. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that we have some few people voting in some places.
What do you mean when you say they were not given the right? We had a good number of voters. The Northwest had about 600 and something voters from official figures from Eleka. Why do you say they were not given the right to vote when people registered?
To register is something else, to vote is something else. A good part of Northwest and Southwest are in bushes. They are refugees. If you go to the statistics that international groups and NGOs are giving, even local groups, you realize that we have more than 120 villages that are under-raised. We have a population of more than close to 4 million or so that are troubled, even psychologically, who are not ready for this election. If we are able to, in Cameroon, to suspend other elections, it's because Cameroon is used to broken laws and doing it the way they do. If we were to suspend this presidential election and galvanize the minds of the people in a peaceful way, which we say we are peaceful, I'm sure that credibility would have been accorded to this election. But as it stands, I don't give it credible because a part of the country was completely cut off the process.
How then did this affect the elections which took place of recent?
It's going to affect the elections because the opposition, if you look at the opposition stronghold in the country, the opposition is grounded in the northwest and in the Anglophone part of the country. The other part of the country are used to the status quo of the presidency. The president, Paul Biya, who has been there for 36 years, has just one opponent who have been there since multipartyism in the country.
Yeah.
Fungi has been the only obstacle except for April 2018 or so, where we had Joshua Osi coming in to replace him. So you realize that Fungi's base has been the northwest and the southwest. The rest of the country still sees President Paul Biya as a god who's supposed to still be there. So it affected this affected the opposition in a great deal. The opposition had no voice in this election.
Will you accept me that it affected the opposition because they also abandoned the masses during campaigns?
You don't expect the opposition to have done anything less than that, or more than that, I beg you, because if the elections, first of all, was organized, those candidates who were coming from this part of the country, they had the people on their back. Because if, like Derick earlier said, the situation in this part of the country has made it in a way that if we were to come back, the people are already outlawed elections. That's the feeling when people are not involved in the process. They have outlawed the electoral process. So if you are coming back from this part of the country to campaign here, meaning that you are endorsing, they were looking at it to be kind of a foreign thing. You're endorsing a foreign activity on them, which was not very good. So it's from that backdrop, like Derick said, that they felt that coming here was very dangerous for them. They did not have the security dispensation and the legality, the legitimacy of the people.
Thank you. You are tuned to The Lamb on WAKA Africa TV, and we are talking about politics in Cameroon. Let me turn to Nsono Josephine. Going by the trends from the polls in the northwest region, participation was very timid. What accounts for that?
Earlier on, I made mention about the insecurity within the Anglophone Cameroon.
Do we talk about insecurity with all the uniform and the military officers we have in the region?
You know, it's more frightening seeing the guys in uniform with their guns and all of that.
Okay.
That's not how the Northwest region and the Southwest regions have always been. I will come from the perspective of the Northwest region because this is where I'm based. And my observation over time has been the fact that seeing a gunman, a military man with a gun, it's scary. And I want to be very concerned that I am safe. Yes, they are here to keep security.
Yeah.
But the fact that they are here equally to fight an enemy or to ensure that this enemy does not put the civilian population at harm's way, then I am like, okay, let me be sure I am not that one they are coming after. So there is this fear that has gripped the Anglophone population because this is not how we formerly were. And now everywhere you pass, there is a military man and all of that. I'm very concerned as an individual, and the population, I think, is equally concerned about the fact that the entire place is militarized. And so I cannot be able to freely maybe participate in the process of the election the way I would formally do. Now, be it the CPDM person or the opposition person, everyone is at risk. I don't want to go to the CPDM rally or to go campaign because I am afraid this person will come after me. I don't want to go as an opposition because I'm afraid this other person will come after me. And so everyone in the community it's just in a stalemate. We do not know what to do because we do not know what awaits us.
Okay.
So I think that the timid turnout during the voting is explained for the most part, I would say.
All right, thank you. I'll be turning to Bakah, Derick. You will bear with me that going by the trends, yes, the law of the land says that only the Constitutional Council will give us statistics to go by, but going by the trends, the party in power, the CPDM, is enjoying some very beautiful position as per the trends we had in the just past elections.
Yes, there is a very systematic method of rigging that has been put in place in Cameroon. Administratively, it's formal. It's a very formal setup, all right, that is put in place. And whether it's a CPDM that's in power and the law does not change, it is difficult to beat the incumbent in Cameroon. It is a very clear legal system that is put in place. And people will tell you that it's law, all right, because it's already established. Yeah. So you find it difficult to beat such a system. And then with the weak financial strength of our opposition, they lack the ability to recruit more supporters or more militants when they have the opportunity to do so. On a very serious note, they need to enjoy it. Why? Because they have the means. They keep this jargon that you hear every day on our media organs about, the CPDM being the ruling party is not for nothing. They keep reminding you that as a senior divisional officer, as a DO, as an assistant DO, you are ruling and you belong to the CPDM. That's a clear message. That reminder, that subtle reminder that the ruling party is not for nothing. All right, that the person who appoints you is the person who is president. He appoints a governor. Remember, Mr. Governor, I'm the one who appointed you. Remember, Mr. SDO, I appointed you. Remember, Mr. DO and their assistants. Remember, it's a ruling party that appoints you.
In all countries in the world, it's but very difficult to kick out the incumbent, not just in Cameroon.
No, the case in Cameroon is particular because it's a legal structure that makes it that way. It is. In other places, you find situations where local administrators are independent. Why? Because of their ability or the way they get to office. People in Cameroon, we forget to know that, in fact, I've had cases in my neighborhood or in my community where people have sold family assets to get admission into administrative schools. But when people get there, they forget and start thinking that being appointed is a favor by someone. All right? And they start paying all their dues. They become so loyal to some particular guy for their appointments. These are all structures that are put in place. Go and cross-check our electoral laws. You just talked about issues of trends. I don't know whether this thing was copy and paste from somewhere. You've listened to the situation. We are told that every polling agent representing a political party goes home with a return sheet from that polling station. We are told that the elections are also announced publicly at the polling station. How come that somebody will imagine that a political party will not have the right to tally all of these results? If it is announced at the polling station and I have a polling agent, it's just normal that all of these things can be sent to our party headquarters. And we put it together, particularly even with the digital level in which we find ourselves. If I were to be a political leader in Cameroon, I wouldn't send my polling agent to a place without a smartphone.
As it stands, I think we have parliamentarians who are responsible for the law that we get, and you can't blame the party in power.
No, but that's just the thing. What does it take to be a parliamentarian in Cameroon? The law says that you only need to read English and French. All right? How will such a person interpret law? If you just got to parliament, would not people here whose first school living are doubted were in parliament? How will such a person read and interpret law for crying out loud? So when you bring a paper and call it law to the person, you want the person to interpret the letter and the spirit?
Are you advising the inhabitants to go for lawyers for parliamentarians?
That may not be the case, but there should be a legal system that makes it compulsory for the National Assembly to have a connection with legal institutions in the country like the bar. Before something becomes law in this country, it must be cross-checked. You should make it formal that the lawyers read it to establish that this is the letter reading, this is the spirit reading of that particular text, and this is the thing we must put in place. There's a lot of panic already in the country that somebody said he had won elections. Do you know why the panic is there? Because there's no other place where you can find out the punishment for that crime. So they must make some noise and then try to give you the impression that, this person is a bad person. By public opinion to believe that he's a bad person, and then they eventually have to start penalizing him socially. The people now need to see him as a bad, when legally there's nothing that punishes him for his crime. What kind of law are we talking about? Jude describes it as we have broken laws. It's a very good description because the laws, you can't find it, you can't join it to any other thing to produce results.
Thank you so very much, Bakah, Derick. Ladies and gentlemen, televiewers, we are happy having you on board this maiden edition of your TV show. Call it The Lamb on WAKA Africa TV. Now, the last topic we will be treating is the legitimacy of a president who does not enjoy the vote of all the people in the country. Let me start with you, Mbaku, Jude. You explained the fact that, or it's already noted that voters from the Northwest and Southwest, they actually boycotted. If we go by statistics of those who registered and those who voted, you will see that there is a very big gap. If any of the 9 candidates should be president, would that person enjoy any legitimacy?
Legitimacy, we have these 2 concepts that people often bring up for such arguments: legitimacy and legality. It's true that a president who goes into office through such fraudulent means will obviously have that legal power when conferred on him or her. But legality now have to do with the people who actually accept you truly from the heart in applying whatever you say or seeing you as a president. People of the Northwest and Southwest region, I think if they were boycotting the polls in the very first place, it's not by chance, it's because they don't see whoever will be there as legitimate. If I refuse not to choose a leader, it's because I don't see any of them as legitimate. Okay. So it's for this part of the country that I can say that they'll look at it with some degree of illegitimacy. Thank you so very much. I now turn to you, Nsono. First and foremost, we have 8 opposition parties. They did not carry campaigns in the Northwest and Southwest region. Or let's talk about the Northwest where we are based. How do you explain the fact that if any of those candidates should be president, he or the person, not he or she, because we had just a male dominant. So how will he be comfortable seated as a president knowing that he did not campaign in the region?
Well, I just want to think that there is going to be a very challenging feeling. I don't know if that's the word, but it will be very, very challenging for someone to feel comfortable being president over the Northwest and the Southwest regions where voters hadn't suffered to go actually cast a vote the way they were supposed to have done. I made mention earlier on the heavy security issues that we're experiencing in the region will not permit someone joyfully select someone they think should be a leader in a mandate for the region. So I think that it's going to really be a challenge.
Thank you. Bakah, Derick, I turn to you. We have a situation where a good number of Northwesterners did not vote, but I rather see them jubilating trends. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I've not been able to analyze that about them jubilating, or maybe with the trends, but permit me just try to draw inspiration from the previous speakers to make an observation on the issue of legitimacy. You know, since 1992, when Fundi and Bia had their issues in this country, since then we have had the outcry of a second round election. Lots of countries have that as a law. We talked about broken laws before. What does it take to be an independent candidate in Cameroon? The law says that you should have 30 signatures from every region to make 300 in Cameroon. That's a beautiful law that establishes the legitimacy of whoever wants to be president, because every region, you have representation from every region that thinks that you can be the president. But when you go below that same law, it tells you that your endorsement must come from other political party representatives like mayors, parliamentarians, and senators. What kind of stupidity is that? You think that somebody who is a senator of the CPDM or SDF will come to endorse you to be independent candidate?
Of course not.
So first you have, what I'm struggling to say that the law should first have the possibility of establishing, or the will. It must first demonstrate the will to establish the legitimacy of a president. By that, I'm saying it is important to have that possibility of a second round. What does the second round do? The second round will allow that at least 50% of the people who are participating in the vote choose their leader. Yeah. It is not for nothing. The reason is that at least half of the people who are voting will say that this is our leader. And that is what establishes legitimacy, the ability for a people to identify with a particular authority. But then in our particular case, I doubt whether we can talk about legitimacy when some people are not seen to have chosen you. Mbaku talked about legality. That's okay. Legally, there were 3 million people that voted. You have 2 million that voted for you. So legally, you are president. But in a country of 25 million people, you voted by 2 million. On a serious note, you think that you have some legitimacy?
Now, as it stands,
it's a very crucial question. Don't
you also think that it takes for the change to be made so that we can now talk about constitutional amendment and all the above?
Well, it's okay, to have a change. But what is the guarantee that you have the change and there will be room for constitutional amendments? The people who are currently leading us, when they got to power many years back, people celebrated. But shortly after, you just realize that you did not have, it was not what people were celebrating because of what they have turned out to be. So what is the guarantee that the other people who bring the change will? So we need, first of all, I have always said it's my conviction. This one is not based on facts because, I came here in my capacity to talk about facts and not commentary. We expect a situation where we should have the political will that is originated from our laws to be able to accompany us in our decision-making process. I have always said personally that the form of governance does not determine the state of development in any country. No, it is the will and the laws of that particular country that determines its state of development.
Thank you so very much, televiewers. It was an exciting maiden edition. I know for sure we regret saying bye, but then you will have to take the rendezvous for the next edition. We were very grateful to have had you on board, Mbaku Jude.
Anytime.
And you say?
My pleasure always.
Bakah Derick.
Thank you very much. It was nice being here.
Be my guest and let's talk facts with Dr. Ambe Macmillan.